Family, friends, and teammates of the victims of Barry Wolf came here to the Coles County Courthouse and filled the courtroom. One of the victims in a written statement said, because of Wolf's actions, high school was a living hell. That's absolutely right, Susie. It's no surprise there are multiple properties in the city in need of repair, cleanup, or even demolished. One of the biggest issues, as you can see around me, is tall grass. News of the Lewis train explosion quickly spread across the nation in both magazines and newspapers. But because of this event as well, many railroads had to change their regulations on how they transported certain items, especially explosives. Rondrell Patrice, there's a good chance if you live in Terre Haute, you heard many of these jets arrive earlier today. That's as many of them took laps around the airport in preparations for the air show in the coming days, all of which are nationally known. To see how big this school zone speeding issue is, I rode along with Officer Jesse Chambers of the Terre Haute Police Department. In a matter of 15 minutes, we pulled over 2 drivers for speeding, both driving 15 over the 20-mile-per-hour speed limit.
And that's the biggest thing, is when we stop them, that's their first thing to say. I wasn't paying attention. I didn't know that. I didn't see the signage, but the signs are clearly marked. Woodrow Wilson was the only school we monitored Friday, but every morning there are multiple other officers doing the exact same thing, all of which catching those speeding or running lights while kids are traveling to or from school. They're clearly marked 20 miles an hour when children are present, so we've been out enforcing that, and on average we're writing, for 3 of us, we're writing 4 to 5 tickets a day for school zone violations. Local school faculty may not be able to issue tickets, but they too do their best to help these kids. They just hope all drivers will pay more attention when on the road.
Just be aware. Just be aware of our kids around there. Nobody would want their kid to be in danger, so hopefully they'll take that into account.
In the back roads of southern Terre Haute, in this house lives Vietnam veteran Kenneth Deerdorf. Though his service was many years ago, he still remembers it all very vividly.
In November, I turned 21. I was the oldest person in the platoon at that time.
Deerdorf served as a machine gunner on a Bell UH-1 helicopter during the war. His group called themselves the Dirty Half Dozen. Every day they took to the air, accomplishing their missions. Things are a little different for Deerdorf now. He's suffering from ALS, an incurable and crippling disease.
My lungs are down to 20%.
But Deerdorf had one wish before his condition got any worse. He wanted to sit with his comrades one last time aboard their Huey helicopter. VNA hospice nurses in the valley helped make that dream come true for the air show.
Means a lot. We're going to be together one more time. I tell everybody, I said, every day's a new day. You make it what you want to make it.
Before they buckled in, they were honored for their service. Then the so-called Dirty Half Dozen loaded up. Sadly, the flight itself was too much for Deerdorf because of his condition. But he still sat back with a smile as his brothers took another ride.
I'm thankful we got to do it, and we thought of him when we were up there, It was a good ride, real good ride.
Owen, Deerdorf, and the rest of the brothers said this experience brought back a lot of memories. They're grateful for the nurses who selflessly helped make it possible.
Say a prayer every day. Thank God for all that He's put into my life.
Whether it's serving on the front lines or helping those at home, this was one ride these American heroes will never forget.
What does it take to save a life?
Why we work 24/7, 365.
Yeah, we're about 45 minutes out.
You never know when it's going to be your loved one that's going to be calling 911 and needing help. It's never ending. We're always on duty.
What is it like to live on the other side of danger?
Because that's something you don't do every day. We do.
How to be a firefighter. The answer you can only find here at Fire Ops 101, where we and community leaders trade in our lives for theirs. From saving someone trapped inside a smoky building,
There's a wall here.
withstanding the heat in a flash fire chamber, and unleashing the jaws of life in the worst of accident.
The welcoming streets of Terre Haute. More than 100,000 people call this home. But for others, home is this bench on this street.
Things got rougher and we had nowhere to go.
Josh Terizio served the country for 7 years.
It's devastating. It's devastating to know that you have nowhere to live and you have a baby and a wife and you can't support your family. It's absolutely devastating.
Josh bared several years separated from his family. He lived in the reality of not knowing what the next day would bring.
I really don't know how I would describe it.
An experience too difficult to put into words. But here at Operation Vanguard, it's an experience they're fighting to end. So we joined the fight for one day to see what living homeless is like.
I can literally see my breath. That's a problem.
We spent a night in the 26-degree weather.
I didn't sleep at all. It was so cold.
I don't like getting up early, but I couldn't wait to get up so I could get moving because it was that cold.
If you live in Indiana, you've seen a farm. In fact, you may have lived on one. So when we tell you the story of Dorothy Ross's farm, you could probably guess it's nothing new. And you'd be right. In fact, it's already been around for 150 years.
And documented records so rare we could hardly believe our eyes. Discharge records from the Civil War.
By reason of service no longer required.
And just check these out.
This is to certify that the burial here of Dixon Stewart.
They're freedom papers, the same used by the Dixon Stewart family, her predecessors, back in 1828 when they traveled from North Carolina all the way to Vigo County.